Tonight, we're going to be talking relationships. We're getting close to the holidays, and, sometimes people have an MO where they're with you, and then when it gets close to the holidays, they drop you. So tonight, we're going to be talking about relationships and how to navigate that water. Sometimes, we go fishing and we just don't know what we're going to pull out the ocean. Well, tonight I've got Dr. Velma Bagby with me, and she's going to help us to determine just what we should be fishing for, or even if we should be fishing. Maybe we should just be sitting on the shore and seeing what swims by, and then make a determination whether that's something we want to reach in and pull out and then sample. But Dr. Bagby is a Christian fiction, contemporary Christian fiction novelist, award-winning. She is an ordained minister, and she is a relationship coach. She is a Christian relationship coach. And, as I said, when Dr. Bagby joins us, you will see that all is going to be well, and we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do. What we are going to do. Can you hear me, Dr. Bagby? She is trying to join us. Let me see here. Okay, we're having a little technical difficulty. Okay, I'm trying to bring her on. I don't know if it's on her side. Oops. Dr. Velma, I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm not able to merge you in for some reason. I'm gonna see. I'm gonna cancel the invite and then try to merge you in again. And see if we can get you here. Okay. It's in. Dr. Velma, you like these men and women. You're so elusive. You like these men and women. And like I said, it's getting close, because you didn't hear none of this. I said it's getting close to the holidays, and you heard it all before. You with me, and then we get close to the holidays, and you get kind of standoffish. And like I was telling the audience, maybe we need to be on the side instead of the shore, instead of trying to fish and just see what's swimming by and see if it catches our eye and then watch it. Because
the first thing they need to do is to first get a view of themselves. Maybe wait for the sun to come up so you can get the view of yourself on the water, a reflection, and take a look at what's happening inside you first. Then we can talk about what's swimming by, because that's the problem. We're not fixing anything, but we expect the man to do it all, and that's not right.
Lord, guys, we done just jumped right in now. Now, she don't know I done this setup, but let me just do this setup again. I told y'all were going to be in for a treat. I've got Dr. Velma Bagby with me. I call her Dr. Velma. She is an award-winning contemporary Christian fiction author. She is a certified Christian relationship coach. She is an ordained minister. And get this, I know she doesn't look like it. She has been married 50 years. So she's talking not only from all the training that she has, but she's talking about lived experiences. And let me say this too, she is a first lady. So not only is it her lived experience, it's her training and her counseling folks in the church. It's her being a listening ear to her husband, because he got to be able to talk to somebody in confidence. So it would be his wife. Now, I don't know if he's done this or not.
Yes.
So don't throw stones at it. Okay.
Yes.
Because he got to have somebody. And then with her being an ordained minister too, and a coach, relationship coach, again, they both have been supporting other individuals for
Yeah.
decades. So we in for a treat, as I've been saying, we in for a treat. So, Dr. Velma, I'm just going to jump in because you already done
Whatever
told
you
us.
want, Dr.
Okay.
Taz. I'm here for you.
Okay. Ooh, I may have to get on the couch myself. Now, she just said to us that the first problem is that we want to look at what's going by instead of looking at ourselves first. Why do I need to start with the woman or man in the mirror first?
Because you will attract exactly what's in your heart. And so if you're out there getting the wrong men attracted to you, that's a red flag right there. That's a warning sign right there that there's something happening in you that you really need to take a look at. It could be something in your past you haven't let go of, a bad relationship that you had, it's a host of things that we don't have time to go over in
Mm-hmm.
in our segment,
Mm-hmm.
but it's your time for your self-examination. If you really want to catch that guy and get that guy that you have a heart for and you really have a desire for, fix you, examine you first, fix you. Because codependency isn't just a drug. Codependency reflects how you love others and how you love yourself. And if you're not dealing with some of those things, even that you brought up from childhood, you just don't know,
Mm-hmm.
you will attract the wrong thing. And it's not his fault, it's yours.
Well, now, Dr. Velma, is it, I'm going to be all women sometimes tonight, and sometimes I'm not going to be these all
Okay.
women because I want to bring this stuff on myself. But do you think, what do you think is the most important thing a woman should do to know her worth? Because I think sometimes we don't recognize our worth, and maybe that's the reason why we settle or make decisions that hurt us and don't help us.
That's the part of the self examination because until you do that, even Paul says, lay aside every weight and sin. Notice he separates weight and sin. Not everything you're holding on to and dragging around for years is a sin, but you're dragging it around and it will interfere with your ability to discover the man of God he has for you. And so we need a new strategy. We still practice this strategy we had in high school. It was fun. He was cute. He paid attention to me. We had a good time on our social outings. It was about being social and having fun. Well, we're grown people now. We have to use a new strategy, and that requires that you put in the work first in yourself, and then you do a good examination of this man because it doesn't take you 5 years to know if he's the one. Scripture uses the number 40. 40 days, you ought to have a hint in terms of where this might be going.
She done gone in real quick. Thank you, Spiritual Sunbeam 2020, for joining us. Now, you done said we go from 5 years, we need to go down to 40 days. Was it 40 days? No,
40
40 was it
days, the number for test and trials. You need to be trying out and testing whether or not asking the right questions, because we don't ask questions. We date strangers now. We marry strangers. This is not the show Married at First Sight. They're marrying strangers, people they don't know, no history, no nothing. I don't support that at all. We should be taking the time to really examine first ourselves and then examine him. Ask the right questions. So what's your intention in dating me? Now, if he gives you that, oh, you're so cute and you caught my eye. Well, I already know these things you're talking about. Tell me something you really discovered about me.
So let the flattery go, is what she's saying, guys. Because you should already know that you're attractive and you got a nice figure and all that. So what more do you want from me? Now, Dr. Velma, I've been thinking as I've been prepping for this segment, you know, the dog is that is a dog, right?
That's my little
Okay.
dog, my
Okay.
daughter's
What?
dog. Yes,
Okay. What? Is it a guy? Is it a male dog?
yes, is a little Frenchie
Okay.
Nike.
He knows what I'm about to say. Now,
Uh
Doctor, because it says just all of a sudden he got up.
oh. Okay, I'm
Now, Doctor
feeling
Velma.
like Jaya now.
Mhm. Now, why is it that we allow ourselves to think that we in a real relationship when that person's in a relationship with who they think that you are? I'm not even gonna say you're a representative, because we have, people talk about, oh, you meet my representative, but no, sometimes people are in relationships with who a part of you that that they like, and I'm not even talking sexual, guys.
Right.
They're in a relationship with a part of you that they like, but you, the real person, they don't like that person at all. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, how the crap does this happen
Right.
that the person, and you don't realize it for
Right.
some time, that
Right.
they never liked you. They like one portion of you.
Because you've been existing and going along with this without asking the right questions, without examining who this person is. Look, we're in this a day now. You can do a background check with on anybody you want to.
That's
You,
true.
if you were going into business with me, and I wanted to make sure that everything you proposed to me and presented to me is true.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to look at your financials. I'm going to look at your histories. I'm going to follow through on the people you said you worked with in the past. I'm going to look at making sure that you have in the bank what you said you have in the bank. Why aren't we doing that now? The strategies are important for us to apply in really determining who this person is, but we don't. We use that high school method of dating and we get googly eyed over what we see on the outside. And I say the conditions are not important because conditions will change over time. So let's not count on that. What I look like today, I didn't look like when I marched down the aisle
Mm-hmm.
at 20 years old. My husband had a full afro.
Mm-hmm.
Elvis has left the building. Everything's gone. So you have to understand that you can't rely on conditions. What's in the heart of the person? What is it that you can really, as a man, will hang his hat on that spot and never move anymore? You must present that. And I'm telling you, there's so many women think that this process is about going down to the mall, choosing what you want in that bear,
Yes.
stuffing inside which stuffing you want, putting what color eyes you want on it,
Mm-hmm.
what
Mm-hmm.
outfit, what
Yep.
shoes. This is not build a bear. It's not build a man.
Ooh.
He should come with those characteristics that you're looking for. Look for the qualities that you're searching for and make sure that's that. Stop prejudging. And I know that women can be really
Mm-hmm.
judgy.
Mm-hmm.
What job he does,
Yes.
what career he has. He could be an up and comer and maybe won't get there until you're in his life. You don't know.
Mm-hmm.
What you want to do is make sure what's in his heart and the quality of this person is there. And when you discover those qualities, you know that's what you want to take advantage of.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a few comments here. Mr. Son Beaver said, relationship with a mind, pull the mask off. Like the idea of you're pretending to be. Absolutely. I'm 30 extra pounds. So again, those conditions, basically, they're always
They're
shifting.
going to shift
And
and
so,
change.
out, and if we're going to be living, they're going to shift.
Yeah,
Now, if we're going to just stop,
right.
then they're not going to shift. And that's the worst thing is to, it's particularly in this day and age, marry, be in a relationship or marry someone thinking that you can change them
No.
or looking at, oh, it's going to get better. Well, after a while, you have to make an honest assessment. If it's not getting better, if one person is shifting for the better and another person is not, you have to examine why is that?
Yeah,
Is it something that I've done? Because as you just said, it could be the person's going to come walk more into whom they're supposed to be
that's right.
because you're in a relationship with them. But if they are not, and if you see that things aren't moving, you have to stop and evaluate that. A friend of mine said a couple of weeks ago that her mother, her aunt had said that, women are helpmates, not the mule. And I
Right.
said to her, I got to remember that we are helpmates, not the mule. If you've got to be the mule, then you need to evaluate how did you put yourself in a position where you've now become the mule. But it's very easy because you said it starting out. You might want to sit on the shore and let the sun come up and look at the water and see your reflection to determine what you need to work on
Yes.
next. And Dr. Bell, you've been telling us all along here, and guys, we jump right in. Let me reset. I'm here today with Dr. Velma Bagby. She is an ordained minister. She is a licensed Christian dating relationship coach. She is an award-winning contemporary Christian fiction author of the Catch series. That's the Catch Nobody Wants. She's got multiple books in the Catch series, and in this past April, she released the Book of Fools, I think it's called.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then she is in the process now of preparing for her upcoming Find Your Voice show that's going to air in 2025. And it's almost like Dr. Velma, as I think about it, oh, yes, she is my friend, amen, sister, spiritual sunbeam said, 2027. It's almost like, you correct me, because I've never been married, but is it that, well, I already know the answer because I'm still dating like I'm in high school. My question was going to be,
Dr.
I
Todd.
know the answer already. My question was going to be, okay, is it that we can't find our voice? Because it seems like we need to find our voice. And I think it's ironic that that's what the name of your new show is going to be, Finding Your Voice. So why is it, I'm going to talk women, then I'm going to flip it to men. Why is it women can't find their voice? Is it because we won't do the work or we're afraid to do the work?
You know, I was talking to a mutual publicist that you and I know this morning, and one of the things I shared with him is the fact that we've changed over time. That's why marriage is on the decline since the 60s. We've changed our approach, and then we hit that patch where it was the me generation. Can't nobody tell me what to do?
Yeah.
Don't be in my business. All of that. We lost what God had given us to support our decision making process, and that is having wise counsel. The father's not in the home, so there goes who used to protect you, because my dad had a barrage of questions when I introduced the man I now am married to, when I introduced him in the 10th grade when we met. And my dad had a barrage of questions, and my response to my dad was, wait, Dad, we're just dating. I'm not trying to marry the guy, 16. But all of that, if I had a question about my relationship, even after I got married, I went over to my senior aunt who was in her 80s. There were people in our life that represented wisdom that we can go to get some information from. We so eliminated that we don't have that structure anymore. So I suggest that you surround yourself with a group of people that you would call your wise counsel, who would help you to vet this person. Because just like in business, you're vetting, it's part of the process, vetting the guy. And so you mentioned something earlier, and I want to remind us all, the mistake that women make is that you want to get a guy and you want to force him into the mold of a husband. What you're doing when you do that is that you're messing up with the man's assignment. The scripture says that when a man finds a wife, not when you make him be your husband, not when you fix him up to be a
Yes.
husband,
Mm-hmm.
because he could be a great and ideal mate, but maybe he's not yours. Maybe
Yes.
he's someone else's. You want to make sure you meet the right one. And if you're doing all of that, that tells you your heart is not ready for a husband yet. And when God talks about you being the crown of his life in Proverbs 12:4, that means you're his crowning achievement. Out of all he's achieved in his life, the one thing that will be the crowning achievement is his
Mm-hmm.
wife. That's it. That's what the scripture says. And so he finds you, which means in the original language, it means to meet you. And I've met so many couples, and I interviewed and captured some of the stories in my very first book, because I didn't know I was going to be writing a catch series. I just
Mm-hmm.
wrote conversations between me and my daughters. It was called Your Adam is Asleep
Sleep.
Until
Mm-hmm.
God Opens His Eyes. Mom, why men don't pay attention? Mom, why they always seem to ignore? I said, first of all, their eyes are closed until it's time for them to open to the right one. But boy, when they open to the right one, you can't do anything about what he has found, because that's the way it ought to be. I've seen situations where the woman forced the man into marriage. She didn't give him a chance to choose. So what
Mm-hmm.
happens? He's constantly looking. He's
Yes.
in the relationship, but he's doing this because you haven't allowed him to complete his task. He's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to find, and you forced him into a relationship. Now he's still looking and turning his head, wondering, did I really find the one I was supposed to have? So it's important for us to approach this differently. The strategy is different when you're dating for marriage, when you're serious about finding the one God has for you. And yeah, it's some hard questions you should be asking too, because
Mm-hmm.
the last thing you want is to get into a situation where he repeats the same problems he had before in the last relationship he had. And so it's time to have some really hard conversations.
Well, Dr. Bevan, you rolled it out, and they say take a drink of water and wash it on down. But I like the fact that you said we when he finds the wife.
Mm-hmm.
That's his crowning achievement. And when you say that, I guess guess what kind of bubbles up in my brain, in my mind, in my cells is, I don't know how to verbalize this so it doesn't sound bad to someone. And it's not, but what I'm thinking is that person becomes your primary focus because now you're about to become one. So you think a certain way because you're becoming lockstep. And if that person is your crowning achievement, you understand that when I nurture that relationship, whatever it is that I'm working towards, whatever my other goals are, if they're going to occur because that person is walking with me because
Mm-hmm.
I found my rib. Because I
That's
have your
right.
book, When Your
That's
Adam is Asleep, because
right.
they've been free.
That's right.
And
And
it's
guess what's in
like
the rib? Your DNA.
the DNA, the DNA.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
then it just, and I'm a science fiction person, so it just all meld together like those you see on the science fiction
As
movie. It just
it
comes
should.
together, and it's
As
like this.
it should.
But
Mm-hmm.
when the DNA doesn't come together,
Mm-mm.
you know,
It's a mess.
it is a mess. Now,
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Velma, I got to give my men, because you wrote a book for the men too. I
Yeah.
got to help them out here because I'm an equal opportunity person. And thank you so much, Carmela, for joining us. I'm an equal opportunity person for relationships. We got some good men out
Yes,
here.
we
And
do.
I hear my girlfriends saying, why do these good men get these women who are not good women? And then they mess these good men up for the good woman. And so when he found his other rib, he don't really realize it, or he's so skeptical that he then in turn messes up that relationship that most
I'm
likely
with you.
could have been the right one.
I'm with you. Because sometimes I'm looking at some situations, I'm going, dude, what are you doing? But the guys have the same problem. Women evolved into this problem.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't used to do this. We didn't
Mm-hmm.
used to get mesmerized
True.
over what we saw. Men were always visual.
True.
That's what they did. They
Yes.
are now learning how to do better and do the
Mm-hmm.
same thing. Examine the heart of the woman, really look at her characteristics and make sure these are the positive things you should be looking for. So again, we all fell by the wayside and how we approach this. And that's us coming back together and learning the things that we were taught when I was just in high school. They were teaching us these things, and I'm going, wait a minute, I'm just 16. Create your husband to be prayerless. It's time for you to write down. And I'm going, wait, I'm trying to graduate, get a job, get off of my mom's payroll.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But we were taught differently. And that's what we have to bring back and share that kind of wisdom with others, because men have the same problem.
Yeah.
They're accustomed to looking at what's on the outside. And believe me, the book that I wrote for them is full of those examples of how the men got to the wrong women because they fell in love with what they saw on the exteriors. And some of those women were really evil and awful. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, I know some people personally, and I looked at who they married. I'm going, man, what are you doing, brother? What happened?
Yes.
Ask for
Yes.
help. Make sure you have a wise counsel. But again, making sure you're judging that person or examining that person carefully, not anything on the outside. Because I'm gonna tell you, you hear some really crazy stories about guys who get the woman by herself and she starts removing all the stuff. What was I remember the movie where the woman removed the leg and everything.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my gosh. It's examining what's beyond what you see. It's so important. And the men have to learn to do the same thing. I did interview some of the men to get their input on some of the challenges they were facing so that I can weave those into the stories. And so you'll see some of those things in the stories that they told me, and I'm going, are you serious? Are you what? That's happening now?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's in the book, and they were really happy with what I was able to write as a result.
Well, now, Dr. W, we talked about the cat series, but we really weren't talking about the cat series, but we are talking about the cat series. But the
Mm-hmm.
cat series, you use fish characters and stories to help men and women understand the importance of being intentional in their
That's
dating.
right.
Now, for those who don't know, how did you come up with the fish analogy to help folks to understand this?
me, before I say that, let me make sure that's only for the ones who are interested in dating, changing the strategy to dating for marriage. You're looking for your lifelong mate.
Yeah.
That's why it was written. If that's not you, then this is not your series.
No.
But I have a brother who is an expert at fishing. He wakes up, goes to bed breathing fish. If he could build a house right on the edge of the water where he likes to fish, he would be there all day long. That was just his pastime. So I thought if I wanted to try to create the story similar to the way Jesus created the parables,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot in the Christian community that do not warm up to fiction. And I thought that was really shocking because the parables are fiction. And
Fiction. Mm-hmm.
so what are you talking about? Obviously, because Jesus is a master at storytelling, he understood approaching a person and their problem in a way that that person doesn't feel intimidated or
Yes.
picked on
Mm-hmm.
or judged. He
Yes.
simply just told a story,
Mm-hmm.
weaved it so that the person themselves can see themselves in it. He
Mm-hmm.
included in his stories a way to change or a way to escape. He never told that person this is what you need to do. He just included it in the story. And at the end, he left it up to the person to decide. I said, that's what I want to do. So why not use fish?
Mm-hmm.
Tall, my brother, told me, I asked him, what were your favorite fish to catch? And I'm telling you, the minute my brother started telling me, for instance, the catfish, I love catfish. He said, but boy, they're difficult to catch because they bury themselves at the bottom of the lake in the mud, in where the garbage goes,
Mm-hmm.
where things are smelly, and that's what they wait on, something smelly to float by. They're not going to go after the bait, like what we said, a man findeth, not the
Yes.
catfish.
Mm-hmm.
He's waiting for you to show up. And he's looking for smelly bait. A smelly bait of a woman is your heart. You're not aware. You poor self-esteem, poor
Mm-hmm.
self-worth. You don't feel good and don't understand your value. He will look for you because that's a smell to him. And so that's an example of the catfish. The sturgeon likes to nibble. He's sneaky. He nibbles everywhere he goes. That's his MO. Then you had the salmon, big and husky, but he hates commitment. He will fight you the whole time. Doesn't matter if you have children together. He still said he's not committing.
Ooh.
So some women think that's their way to make the man
Mm-hmm.
commit. But no, he fights and will continue to fight. And then there's the sturgeon. I told you about the
Mm-hmm.
sturgeon, the salmon, the catfish, and then there's the puffer fish. The puffer fish is considered a fish that has human-like eyes, very friendly looking face, but you agitate him. He puffs up 3 times his size with poisonous points coming out of his body. That's not
Mm-hmm.
a sight of a man you ever want to see. Because if it comes out that easily, you best believe it's coming out on a regular basis. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what happens in the story. So I just thought, as he told me these things, where they were found, all of that. And then the fact that the goldfish, which is the catch you do want, the catch that she didn't want in the story, the young lady in the story ignored this young man that had been around her most of their lives. They kind of grew up around each other because of their father's businesses. She ignored him. She didn't want that because he worked in construction. What she didn't know that as he grew older, he expanded his father's company into multiple companies. He was now living in $1 million mansion because of how he built that company. But
Mm-hmm.
because she judged him in the beginning, she was about to miss out on the good heart, a guy with a good heart, a good commitment to the woman that God would allow into his life. And because she listened to her prayers, when God responded, and she said, well, who is it? Who? And pointed back to that young man that she ignored most of her life. And he was the goldfish. And that was the catch no one wanted.
Because they were prejudging him on what he used to be instead of being able to see him for what he was.
And
And that is
sometimes
hard.
that list, sometimes our list, I say you can build a list, but you better meet the list too.
Yeah.
Don't
Mm-hmm.
create a list that you can't meet.
Mm-hmm. And I was going to say, yeah, because we have this list. Well, some people do. I don't really have a list. I just, we just do it. But we have this list,
I did
and
too.
way back when I
6'2".
had one.
What has that got to do with building a life? My
Oh,
husband
people.
is 5'9",
Oh,
6'2",
yeah,
because I'm 16. Our foot basketball
yeah,
players were at least 6 and
yeah,
over. So that's okay, 6'2".
6'2". But 50 years later,
My little 5'9" is who I'm in love with, and we're still hanging in there together.
You're a goldfish. you
Mm-hmm.
know. And again, that's the point, guys, that, there are red flags that are
Yes.
there, but we have to be mindful of what we're seeing. Sometimes I tell people it's like a flashing light, yellow light. It's like caution, caution, caution.
Mm-hmm.
But we just go right on through it because, as Dr. Velma said when she first came on, we got to examine ourselves.
Yep.
And that's not always an easy task or one that we welcome.
Yeah.
But if we want to move forward, and that's men or women, we've got to stop and do that.
Yep.
Because who wants to keep making the same mistake over and
That's
over
right.
again?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Well, you
the
know
Book
that
of Fools.
analogy of the apples. You put a rotten apple in a bowl of good apples. What happens to the rest of the apples? So they could be good guys,
Mm-hmm.
but you're the problem because you got that rotten spot you never dealt with.
Well, well, yeah,
Wrote a
yeah,
song about
oh,
it. Want to hear it? Here
yes,
it goes.
yeah, yeah. We're gonna have to get them little rotten spots out
Yep.
because it does, and
Yep.
it spoils you too because that
Yep.
means you're rotten,
Yep.
and you don't want to live a life like that.
No.
And you think about just with that analogy, you think about the catfish.
Mm-hmm.
Depending upon what your rotten spot is, that makes you
That's
vulnerable to
right.
the catfish.
That's what he wants. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, we could talk about all of the books, Dr. Velma. And of course, I got to say, that latest, The Book of Fools, you really talk about the mistakes that people make in relationships there. Guys, so all of her books are on Amazon. But as our time comes to a close, and I don't know how the time got away from us, I want you to, I know that you're preparing to launch your new podcast, Finding Your Voice. I already mentioned that in
Mm-hmm.
2025. Um, you're going to help your listeners discover their voice in a world that often tries to silence them.
Yes.
How important is it for women to find their voice, especially in their personal lives and dating? Just how important is it?
It's necessary. Stop looking if you're not going to do it. Just stop looking because all you're going to do is waste a lot of time, even experience some difficulties and hurt because you're not prepared. And so I'm saying prepare yourself for what you really want. And if you're not preparing yourself for what you really want, you're just going to repeat some of the same habits over and over. And I mentioned earlier about interviewing folks who had mingled in some of the same areas, some of the same restaurants, some of the same locations, never noticed each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then years later, crossed paths, and all of a sudden they noticed each other
Mm-hmm.
and found out they had been going to the same spot on a regular basis, didn't know that was because his eyes were closed until it was time. So it's either not time because you're not ready or they're just the wrong one. And that was one point I remembered that you and I were talking about earlier. It's important for you to understand that
Yeah.
it's in God's timing, and you just have to make sure your heart is ready.
Dr. Velma, you done gave that good advice, but I don't want to hear that. I'm going to be these women. I don't want to hear that because that really takes it out of our control, except for making sure that those little rotten spots, those things, those
Yeah,
traumas, those being hurt, I taking care of all of
that's,
that
that's
so
right.
that when his eyes are open, I am the vessel that he needs me to be.
Right.
Because the worst thing I think is that his eyes opens and he knows that you're the right person. You're the person, but I'm not the person because I haven't taken care of all the baggage that I have. I'm still dragging that along with me, and I miss my opportunity.
I've heard guys say, I really believe that such and such is the one for me, but they're not ready. And they'll step away and wait to allow that person time. And that's the right thing to do. If they're not ready, they're not ready. If they are truly the one, then give them time to get themselves together because it's not okay to go into a situation like that. Now, I'm not saying that my husband and I had a perfect journey in the beginning. A lot of what I share, I've learned along the way. But I do realize that I remember when my husband and I hit a rough patch. I went to that old aunt. I said, her name was Anne Marie. I said, Anne Marie, I don't know. This right here, I usually try to show grace at home.
Mm-hmm.
I usually pray for my husband. I said, but this right here, I'm just trying to get past. She said, baby, she tells everybody, baby, what you gonna do with all that work you put into this man? And my eyes are like this. Marie, nobody's getting nobody's getting the work I
Yeah, don't
because I
benefit
find
from
that
all your
even
work.
when you find the right one, when you hit a rough patch, if you're not prepared to deal with some of the issues that will come across your path as a couple, people have given up too soon. That's another problem. You get someone good, but people give up too soon because you hit a rough patch. You got to know who your true enemy is.
Well, Dr. Velma, I wasn't planning to ask this, but what do you think in a relationship, a dating or marital relationship, what is the one thing that you think is the most important besides God being there? But
Mm-hmm.
what's the one most important thing to help keep that marriage or that relationship on the right path?
Well, I usually say that when you're dating, you're living in two different places many times. And so therefore you get to go to your house. If you're mad at them, not happy with them, you close the door. You don't want to answer the phone. You don't answer the phone. But once you're in it, you don't get to close the door because you're all in the same house.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore, I think it's important to practice the same grace that God gives us because we fall so short of his glory. We never measure up any day at any time. We do the best
Mm-hmm.
that we can. And yet God still shows grace and mercy to us every day, brand new.
Yeah.
And so it's important for us to learn how to show the same kind of grace. Nobody is perfect. So why are we expecting the mate to be that way too? So you just have to show grace. Sometimes I can look at my husband and tell when it's not a good spot for him. So I give him space.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I know he looks like he needs a good hot cup of coffee. Let me just go on and fix it. You just have to understand and know that person and know what it takes to keep everything under control. We had to learn that we are not enemies to each other. That's one thing. We are not each other's enemy. We recognize who the real enemy is,
Mm-hmm.
and when we see him trying to put a toe hole in our
Mm-hmm.
day, we have to make sure that we know how to handle him
Yeah.
and let him know he's not allowed in. And so we
Mm-hmm.
had to learn that, and we operate together as one.
Well, Dr. Velma, I'm gonna have to have you to come back. We just did not have enough time. Um, Before we leave, I want you to remind everybody how they can stay in contact with you, and also about your new podcast, Finding Your Voice, that's going to be
Yes.
premiering in
I'm looking forward
2025.
to that. I'm actually looking for guests because I'm recording this episodes in advance of its release. So I'm looking forward to that. You can reach me at drvelmabagby.com. Just connect with me that way. That's my website. There's a lot of great specials that I have going on right now for the fall. So make sure you take advantage of those. And I look forward to hearing from you. And Dr. Taz, I have enjoyed myself with you. We're going to have some more moments away from Instagram.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Because you see, I got to talk to that wise counsel, you see.
I volunteer. I'm here.
Thank you so much. Everyone, Dr. Velma Bagby has been my guest on this episode of Talk with Taz. Thank you for joining us. And as always, before you take care of someone else, make sure you take care of yourself first. Bye now. Thank you,
Bye bye.
Dr. Velma.
You
Bye
take
bye.
care.
You too.